How strange. It's very weird to have a broadcasting channel, so to speak. But thank you for taking the time to watch this and hopefully find out a little bit more about what it is I do and why I do it. I've created Immersed in the Game, which is based on all of the things that I'm involved in, which are football or soccer related. It's a good sort of umbrella to house all of the different facets of the small business sort of industry that I'm getting involved in. I totally love the game, just as most people do, I imagine. So what I've done since I finished playing was try to think of a way to keep myself occupied and obviously to keep myself involved in the game. So I coach, I run small projects, and I look for ways to improve myself through the game. So I'm going to be using this channel as an extension of Immersed in the Game, where you can actually see and hear me if you want to. So this week I've been quite busy as usual. I worked with some U5 players yesterday who were crazy. We worked on dribbling. I had a group of 15 and they were wonderful players, wonderful little people. We worked on dribbling and finishing. So one of the things which you've got to take into account when you're working with players of that age group, which most of you probably know anyway, is that they have a learning which is different to other age groups which you may be working with. They're still trying to get to grips with their motor skills. So they're falling over all the time. They're jumping, hopping, rolling, kicking, flying. So you're just trying to work a way for them to enjoy the session, but also to get to grips with their motor skills and balancing, obviously. So working with dribbling to finish, the main concentration that I had was to try as best as possible to make sure that the players were constantly occupied. And at that age they've got massive egos, they don't want to share anything, so you have to make sure that they have a ball each. So you can have the attitude that you give them the smaller footballs because they're smaller players, or I think the Dutch, they now work with players and give them all size 5s. So it's totally up to you what your own ethos is, what your own philosophy is. My players had smaller footballs. As best as possible, everyone had a ball each. I explained the session to them, explained what we're looking to get out of it, and then we went bang straight into it. Had a little bit of fun as well, a little bit of joviality, because they've got wonderful personalities, so you should allow that to flourish. I always have a whistle when I'm working with large groups, especially if they're not players who can concentrate for great periods of time. So I have a whistle, which I explain the whistle to them. The reason I have a whistle is because I'm not going to shout, but if I blow the whistle, it means you've got to pay attention, please. And it worked, and it usually does work. Obviously you've got to decide when to use it so you don't overuse it and it just becomes a big sound in the background constantly. And also be aware that it can sound quite aggressive, whistles, so if you are going to blow it, don't blow it as hard as you can because it sounds like a foghorn and it's probably a little bit too aggressive for the players. So I'm mindful of that. The session went okay. Players seemed to enjoy themselves. We worked from the basic technical understanding of dribbling, why we dribble, where we dribble, and then you work towards showing them that this is part of what you would do every time you play. This is the field. This is where you would look to employ that skill. So you work on a technique in terms of what areas of your foot you'll be using, what areas of the ball, surface of the ball you'll be using, and allow them the opportunity to choose which part of their foot, choose the part of the soccer ball or the football, and allow them to work their way through problems. So you put obstacles there, they have to use their ability and their newfound skill, and then you introduce the skill element from the technique, which will be, now in a game, is it just you and your chums? No, you'll have defenders, so then you introduce defenders. Obviously encourage the finishing and why they finish and different choices, different areas to finish, so maybe a couple of different goals, which is what I did. It seemed to work okay. Because they were quite a large group, I worked with groups. I split the group into 4. So one group were working themselves around the cones in one area and no finishing. And the other 3 groups were working themselves around the cones with a finish. And then you introduce the defensive players. And in that, you include a little bit of teamwork, you include them to encourage each other, high fives and that kind of stuff, countdowns, obviously water breaks because they don't realise how tired they get, and then you finish with a game, and they seem to respond quite well to it. If there'll be one thing that I would improve from that session, I think that the players probably needed to have a little bit more interaction. So maybe gauge their understanding of what they were doing, why they were doing it, and just constantly make sure, check the learning. And I don't think I did that enough. And so I'll definitely look to do that with the next session that I'll put on. This particular session, obviously, with all the sessions I do, I try to put them onto Dig Soccer. So I'll put this session onto Dig Soccer with a little bit of evaluation in terms of how I could have improved the session. Anybody watching it would probably have more ideas for me how I could have improved, but you know, it was enjoyable for me, and I think the players really liked it as well. And as long as they are developing slightly, I think then you're on the right track really, which is good. Tonight I am working with U15s at elite level, female players. And we'll be working on pressing and holding play. So I'll be looking at a session around that area. This group of players I work with regularly, and they have concentration issues. They're very nice players, but they have concentration issues big time. So the challenge for me there is to really try and tap into their understanding and get out of the 4 corners that you're looking at. With their development, they have too much of the social, and I think you might now at that age group want to have a bit more shift, a bit more of a focus on the psychological aspect of their performance. So we'll be looking at how they perform tonight. But it's been a good week so far. I just found out today that I'll be working with some U8s during their games each Sunday, and also I'll be coaching some U14 boys. So that's a new challenge. It'll be very enjoyable, no doubt. Probably some ups and downs along the way. So I'll keep you posted on that. But yesterday's session with the U5s was excellent. Enjoyed it. What I'll be doing now is just looking at the session for tonight with the U15 girls. And obviously I'll be posting more little snippets like this onto YouTube, which is a great medium, and I hope you enjoyed this first supplement. And I hope you're enjoying your coaching.